Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. The Liberals have decided to ignore families in the city by cutting $86 million from social housing this year alone. That's what the Liberals are telling Toronto. They're telling them, forget about fixing the backlog, that's for repairs, forget about easing the strain on emergency shelters, and worst of all, forget about the 87,000 families, Mr. Speaker, who are desperately waiting for affordable housing, the worst in Ontario's history. Speaker, does the Premier have any clue what her cuts to social housing will actually mean for struggling families in Toronto?
Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Minister of Municipal Affairs. I appreciate the question from the member opposite. She has a well-earned reputation for being a great advocate in Toronto, especially on the social housing front. So thank you for that. I just want to go and correct the impression, though. There's been no cut to housing, social housing in Toronto. In fact, the redevelopment of Regent Park and the legacy of hundreds of homes connected with the Pan Am Games augurs very, very well. What the member opposite, I think, is referring to is the end of the Toronto pooling agreement. Toronto was projecting a shortfall this year of some $86 billion, and they may have decided to tag that to something. I don't know, but that has been offset by the uploading that we've gone through. In fact, provincial support of Toronto has increased by almost 700% since 2003.
That's a lot.
Answer. Since 2003, some 600 plus millions has been provided. Thank you. The total provincial assistance.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, back to the Premier. The Mayor of Toronto, John Tory, and the entire City Council would beg to differ with that response. The Liberals can talk about being progressive, but no progressive government would cut $86 million from Toronto's social housing budget. Over 5 years, the Liberal cuts will mean $500 million funding gap, leading to service cuts and even longer wait lists for affordable housing in the city, which now run between 10 and 12 years. Even more families will be left waiting just to get the housing they can afford. So, Speaker, again, to the Premier, how can the Premier defend such deep, real cuts to social housing?
Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to elaborate a little bit further on our relationship with Toronto. In 2015, the total benefit of provincial uploads for Toronto is estimated to be $460 million, or about 12% of the residential tax base. And Ontario, I don't know if the member opposite recalls this, but I will remind her if she doesn't. Ontario has already forgiven the outstanding Toronto debenture loan of some $230 million. So we're going out of our way to not only reverse the downloading of the previous government, but to work with Mayor Tory and his council to, as adequately as we can, and do an even better job on the social housing front.